Shall we wait till about 4 minutes more? People are being admitted now.
Yeah, we have 37 so far.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for your patience. We still have quite a few trying to get into the webinar room. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to all participants, depending on where you're tuning in from. May I just voice some house rules before we proceed? Today's webinar is entitled Women, Water, Communities, the Voice of the Unheard. My name is Sarada, and I am from Optimist International, Southeast Asia Pacific. And this Tier 1 webinar is being held under the umbrella of Signposts to Bali, and is a part of a series of webinars in the lead up to the 10th World Water Forum, which will be held in Bali in May 2024. It is being organized by SEROM and the Malaysian Water Partnership, and is supported by the Global Water Partnership South Asia and Southeast Asia, Women for Water Partnership, and NSearch. It will bring together an expert panel of speakers from Malaysia and beyond, who will discuss the importance of the voice of the unheard from various levels: local, regional, national, and also international. Before we proceed, may I just request everyone to please mute yourself and turn off your video so that we have better reception. All questions are to be put into the chat box if you have any. And the Q&A will take place after all the speakers have finished and will be conducted by Mr. Fani Wedahoditama at the end of the panel session. Without wasting any further time, I now call upon Marit Verhoef-Cohen to give her opening remarks.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarada, and welcome all. I'm delighted to be able to say a few words at the start of this interesting webinar. You've already heard it is we are organizing more than one webinar, and they're all called Signposts to Bali. And as Sarada already said, the World Water Forum 10 will be in Bali, and that will be from the 18th till the 24th of May 2024. And the World Water Forum is one of the world's largest water-related multi-stakeholders gatherings. And it's coordinated and organized every 3 years by the World Water Council and by a host country, which will be Indonesia this next year. The forum provides a unique platform where the water communities and key decision makers can collaborate and make long-term progress on global water challenges, and challenges there are. This event brings together participants from all sectors and at all levels, including political institutions, multilateral organizations, academia, civil society, and the private sector. Women for Water focuses on the importance of women's voices, and these voices have to be heard during the World Water Forum. Although the role of women in water management has been recognized ever since the Dublin Principle in 1992, meaningful participation of women in planning, decision-making, implementation, access to resources, then I'm thinking of land and water rights, financing, and all that is still lacking seriously behind. Also, during the preparations for this World Water Forum in Bali, participation of women was far off. Women for Water Partnership promotes women and youth working together for water security and climate change, of course. The COP is coming up end of this week. Therefore, Women for Water supports and advocates for an inclusive approach, devoid of tokenisms, to be reflected in all sessions of this World Water Forum, by upholding and ensuring the true representation of gender participation led by women networks, organizations, indigenous communities, youth, and more. We are concerned that the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030 is seriously lacking behind. An average of only 12% is on track. That is worrying, and we are convinced that better access to the labor market, access to women to finance local activities, equal pay, access to vocational training, and access to public services, such as water and sanitation, healthcare, will enable and empower women, which will be needed to implement SDG 5 and 6. That is why we will highlight the need for inclusivity in the World Water Forum. Inclusion of women needs special efforts, and when doing this, better results are guaranteed. I wish you all a constructive, positive, and fruitful webinar. And sorry, I hope you all will get to be in Bali, and I hope you are as excited for the upcoming event as I am. So enjoy this webinar, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Marie. That was a very nice opening statement, and we should all take heart, because you said the gender representation is not here. I now call upon Dato IR Abdul Kadir bin Mohammadin, who will give the keynote address. Dato Abdul Kadir is a professional engineer registered with the Board of Engineers Malaysia, an ASEAN Chartered Professional Engineer, and a Chartered Engineer with the Institution of Civil Engineers UK. He has a degree in civil engineering from the University of Strathclyde in Scotland. He is also a director of the Malaysian Water Academy and a member of various professional institutions. In addition, he was the former CEO of Inda Water Consortium, a national sewerage company, and has more than 35 years' experience in the water and sewerage sectors. He has vast experience in engineering consultancy and worked in many countries apart from Malaysia, including UK, Brunei, Singapore, and the Middle East. Dato Kadir is the current Vice President of NSearch, a non-profit organization promoting effective ways to manage the impacts of human activities on the environment. He received the Golden Globe Tigers Award in 2016 under the category Leadership Award for outstanding contribution to water efficiency. Dato, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Strada, for the kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening or good morning to some part of the country or the world, and distinguished guests and advocates for change. I'm deeply honored to address you in this significant Bali Signposts webinar, where we converge to explore the profound theme of women, water, and communities, the voice of the unheard. So in the spirit of fostering awareness and collaboration, our focus today is on the silent struggles faced by women in relation to water and sanitation, particularly in the context of the overlooked, unheard voices in Southeast Asia. Let us begin by confronting the global reality. Recent statistics paint a concerning picture whereby in year 2022, 2.2 billion people still lack access to safely managed drinking water, including 703 million without basic water service, and a staggering 3.5 billion people still lack access to safely managed sanitation services, including 1.5 billion without basic sanitation services, and 2 billion lack basic hand washing facility, including 653 million with no hand washing facility at all. On a global overview, we see that on water services, based on the WHO and UNICEF report as of 2019, 71% of the global population had access to safely managed drinking water services, and around 90% of the global population had access to at least basic water services. On the sanitation services, globally, approximately about 55% of the population had access to safely managed sanitation services in 2019. So about 81% of the global population had access to at least basic sanitation services. So if you look at it in the context of Southeast Asia overview on water services, Southeast Asia has made progress in improving water services because as of 2019, around 88% of the population in the region had access to at least basic water services. The proportion of the population with access to safely managed water services vary across countries in Southeast Asia. Sanitation services, Southeast Asia, around 75% of the population had access to at least basic sanitation in year 2019. So the percentage of population with access to safely managed sanitation services vary across countries within the region. These figures can vary among countries within the Southeast Asia region due to the differences in the economic development, infrastructure, and of course, the governance. On a global overview of water and sanitation related to diseases, is very important. According to the World Health Organization, water-related diseases such as diarrheal diseases are a significant cause of mortality globally. In 2019, it was estimated that 2.2 billion people globally lack access to such drinking water services and 4.2 lack of safely managed sanitation services. So lack of this access contribute to the spread of waterborne disease. The death rates on the estimates globally, waterborne diseases are responsible for a significant number of deaths, particularly among children under the age of 5. So diarrheal diseases often linked to unsafe water and poor sanitation are a leading cause of mortality in this age group. As you can see on the other side, that is Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has made progress in improving access to water and sanitation services, but challenges persist, especially in the rural areas. So lack of access to safe water and sanitation facilities can contribute to the prevalence of waterborne diseases in certain communities. And the mortality rates due to water and sanitation related issues can vary across countries in Southeast Asia, and inadequate access to clean water and proper sanitation facilities may contribute to higher mortality rates, especially in vulnerable populations. It is important to note that the impact of water and sanitation on mortality rates can be multifaceted and influenced by factors such as prevalence of waterborne diseases, the effectiveness of healthcare system, and overall socio-economic conditions. According to the World Health Organization, UNICEF, as of 2019, approximately 144 million, largely in the rural areas, rely on untreated surface water as their primary source of drinking. The joint monitoring program reported also 785 million people lack basic drinking water services and 2 billion lack basic sanitation services globally. So rural areas are often disproportionately represented in these figures. So behind these figures lie stories of countless women and communities whose voices often remain silent in the face of these challenges. Sadly, in some part of the world, existence of major activities of the day as we speak for millions of women is on water collection and finding a safe place to go. These women are left with little to no time for work, school, or to care for family. They cannot live up to their full potential if there is no water or toilets at home. As such, access to safe water is critical to the health of women and more so for their babies during pregnancy and after. Under this situation, the hardship of walking to find and collect water whilst carrying heavy vessels of water can be detrimental for a pregnant woman. To make matter worse, consuming unsafe water is harmful to the health of both mom and her baby. So in short, women need safe water and good sanitation facility at home. Turning our attention to Southeast Asia, we must acknowledge the pressing issues faced by nations in this region. Among the 10 worst affected countries globally, several Southeast Asian nations, including Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos, grapple with unique challenges. Factors are such as rapid urbanization, inadequate infrastructure, and political instability contribute to the difficulties in providing essential water and sanitation services. The consequences are particularly harsh for women and communities perpetuating cycles of vulnerability. In the context of broader challenges, we cannot ignore the impact of climate change, rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and unpredictable rainfall patterns exacerbate water scarcity issues. Women, often responsible for securing water for their families, bear the brunt of these changes, facing increased challenges in accessing clean water. Further compounding these challenges is the necessity for proper toilet facilities in the relief centers during emergencies. Displaced communities, often led by women, face heightened risk to their health and safety when proper sanitation facilities are lacking. It is imperative that relief efforts address this fundamental need to ensure the well-being of those affected. Despite these challenges, progress has been made in recent decades. Grassroots initiatives, technological innovation, and global collaboration have improved access to clean water and sanitation in many regions. Educational programs have empowered communities, leading to positive changes in hygiene practices. However, the pace of improvement is not commensurate with the scale of the challenge, and urgent action is needed. To bridge existing gaps in water and sanitation infrastructure globally, a substantial financial investment in the order of billions is required. Governments, non-governmental organizations, and the private sectors must unite in a concerted effort. International development and the private sector must unite. International development aid, public-private partnership, and innovative financing mechanism can play a pivotal role. The urgency of matter demands a shift in priorities and a collective commitment to allocate resources where they are most needed. The common relation between global water, women, and communities is deeply intertwined with the social, economic, and health aspects of communities around the world. Women often play a central role in the water-related activities, and access to clean water and sanitation significantly impacts their well-being, as well as that of the broader community. I will give 8 points on this context. There is 1, water as a foundation for community health. Clean water is essential for maintaining public health. Communities, especially women, are responsible for securing water for drinking, cooking, and sanitation. When access to clean water is compromised, it can lead to waterborne diseases and health crises. 2, women as water managers. In many societies, women are primary water managers. They are responsible for collecting, storing, and managing water for household needs. This role is time-consuming and can limit women's opportunities for education, work, and personal development. 3, impact on women's health. The lack of access to clean water and proper sanitation disproportionately affects women's health. Women may face increased health risks, waterborne diseases, infections, and complications during pregnancy and childbirth when sanitation conditions are inadequate. 4. Time burden on women. The time spent by women in fetching water, often from distant sources, can be substantial. This time burden limits their ability to engage in income-generating activities, education, and community participation. 5. The girls' education, insufficient access to water and sanitation facilities in schools disproportionately affect girls. Inadequate menstrual hygiene management facilities can lead to absenteeism, contributing to lower educational attainment among girls. 6. Impact on community productivity. The health and well-being of women directly impact the overall productivity of community. When women have access to clean water and sanitation, they can contribute more effectively to economic activities, agriculture, and community development. 7. Vulnerability in crisis situations. During humanitarian crisis or conflicts, women and girls are particularly vulnerable to inadequate water and sanitation conditions. Lack of privacy and security in sanitation facilities can expose them to risk of violence and exploitation. Last, 8. Community development. Access to clean water and sanitation is a fundamental aspect of community development. It contributes to improved health, economic productivity, and overall well-being, with women playing a pivotal role in realizing these benefits. We look at challenges in access to good water and sanitation, lack of infrastructure in many communities, especially in developing regions. Inadequate infrastructures hinders access to clean water and sanitation facilities. On the gender inequality, societal norms often place the responsibility for water and sanitation on women, perpetuating gender inequalities and limiting opportunities for education and economic empowerment. Financial barriers is another aspect to look at, because affordability can be a barrier to accessing clean water and sanitation services, particularly for economically disadvantaged communities. Last, the climate change. Changing climate patterns can affect water availability, making it challenging for communities to secure a reliable water supply. Addressing these challenges requires a comprehensive approach that recognizes the integral role of women and communities in water management. Strategies should include improving infrastructure, promoting gender equality, and ensuring sustainable water and sanitation practices for the well-being of individuals and communities globally. As we reflect on our discussion today, I leave you with 3 take-home messages. Empower and amplify voices. That is, actively seek and amplify the voices of the unheard, ensuring that women and communities are at the forefront of decision-making processes. Second, climate resilient solutions. Prioritize climate resilient solutions to address the impact of climate change on water sources, ensuring sustainability in the face of environmental challenges. Third, invest in immediate and long-term solutions. Allocate funds for immediate relief and long-term sustainable solutions. Prioritize basic infrastructure development, education, and gender equality. In addressing these challenges, let us focus on both top priorities and low-hanging fruits. Basic infrastructure development, education, and gender equality are immediate priorities. Simultaneously, leveraging existing technologies and community engagement strategies as low-hanging fruits can bring about tangible change swiftly. Together, let us forge a path towards a future where the voices of the unheard are not only unheard, but acted upon. The journey ahead is challenging, but with collective determination, we can pave the way for a world where women, water, and communities thrive. Last, silent streams, unheard dreams, empowering women through global water and sanitation initiatives. May we have a fruitful webinar today and represent the unheard voice. Thank you for your kind attention. Back to Dr. Sarada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kadir. You have shared your vast practical knowledge and experience in managing water and sewerage projects. Those figures you quoted are quite alarming, and we certainly must do something about that. And you have given us plenty of food for thought. I now hand over to Dr. Salma Zakaria, who will moderate the panel discussion. Dr. Salma?
Thank you, Dr. Sarada.
Dr. Salma has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, an MSc in land and water resource management, and a PhD in deep peat, field water management from Cranfield, UK. She has several years' experience in the water sector and is responsible for drafting the strategic paper on water sector transformation for the 12th Malaysia Plan in 2019. She has served the government of Malaysia for more than 30 years and has also worked in UN SCAP Bangkok for 7 years between 2008 and 2015. Over to you, Dr. Sarma.
Thank you, Dr. Sarada, for the kind introduction. I think this topic is something that would interest many of us because we are looking at the voices of the unheard. And there will be 3 interesting papers that will be presented. And the first paper will be from Dr. Sarada Narayanan herself. Dr. Sarada is a medical doctor. Can I have yeah. And she has been leading us in organizing a conference and webinar in the last few years. She spearheaded the SIROMS project, Clean Water for Rural Communities, and she will be presenting the case study of what we did for the women of Long Tanyit in rural Sarawak, which is the biggest of the 3 what do you call that areas in Peninsular Malaysia. Dr. Sarada, I welcome you for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salma, for that kind introduction. Today, I will be presenting, can I have the first slide, please? Finally. Today, I will be presenting a case study from Kampung Long Tanyit, Belaga District, Sarawak, to illustrate why it is important to listen to the voice of the unheard. In Wanli, are you showing the presentation, or do you want me to share?
Okay, give me a minute.
In April 2018, Suraptimis International Region of Malaysia launched the project Clean Water for Rural Communities with funds provided by the SI President's Appeal 2017 to 2019 and Heineken Malaysia. Next slide, please. Yes. At that time, the president of Suraptimis International was actually Marid, who presented the opening remarks earlier. So we were very fortunate indeed to have her blessings and funding from Suraptimis International to launch this project. So the project was launched in 2 villages. The pilot was held in Long Tanyit, Sarawak, and a second project was launched in Kampung Gana, Sabah. Next slide, please. As you can see from this slide, Long Tanyit is located deep in the interior of Sarawak, very close to the Kalimantan border. It is a Penan village consisting of 300 villages, and the nearest big town is Bintulu. So from Bintulu to Long Tanyit, it takes about 8 hours by 4-wheel drive, and half of this, 4 hours, is actually on logging tracks. So you can imagine it's an arduous journey. Young people have left this village as there are no jobs to be had in the village, and they've all gone to cities to look for jobs. Now, although Long Tanyit is located near the Murum Dam, it has no electricity connection. Apart from no electricity, there's no clean water, no sanitation, no electricity, and no clinics. So we decided to work with this village because the villagers approached us for some help. The river that runs through the village is heavily polluted because of logging and deforestation. So that is one of the main reasons they did not have access to clean water. Can I have the next slide? Now, the objectives of the project was mainly to bring clean water to the community, and then we hope to improve the health and well-being of the villagers. And in phase 2, we wanted to assist them to generate an income through sustainable farming, and also to help preserve the biodiversity of the land. In phase 1, which was to bring clean water, we helped to set up a rainwater harvesting system and constructed a small dam to provide a backup source of water for agriculture and during periods of drought. Now, in order to do this rainwater harvesting, we actually sent 5 Penang girls from the village to Kuala Lumpur and helped them through a diploma in welding so that they could return. They did return and help to weld the stands that were used for the rainwater harvesting. Next slide, please. Now, the strategies that we employed in this project was 1, training and capacity development, ownership of the project, and collaboration with other organizations, all of which led to leadership of the women and giving them a voice in the community. And this in turn led to empowerment of the women. So the women were now bold enough and empowered enough to have a voice in the community. The next slide, please. This is phase 2 with organic farming implementation. We sent 6 women and 1 man to Kuala Lumpur for training in organic farming, and they returned to set up a farm over 5 acres of land next to their village. The farm involved planting. This is one of the farming trainers, and you can see that they have got lush green vegetables, pak choy, spinach, long beans, sweet corn, watermelons, etc. Now, these 6 women have in turn taken the initiative and trained another 20 women in farming. Next slide, please. The project was very successful, and these are some of the impact and outcomes that we discovered. The 300 villages now have clean water. There's a reduced incidence of diarrhea and sore eyes. I believe Dr. Kadir mentioned that WHO has said that the highest source of mortality in children below the age of 5 years is diarrheal diseases. So clean water is absolutely essential in preventing deaths due to dirty, polluted water. The 5 Penang girls that we sent for training are now employed as welding inspectors, and they support their families by earning an income in Kuala Lumpur. The 120 girls and women are now involved in generating an income via farming, and most important of all, women are now empowered to speak up. Now, this project has addressed several SDGs, including 1, 2, and 3, as well as 4, 5, and 6. And I did not mention it here, but 17 was also crucial. Partnerships was crucial in achieving this impact. Next slide, please. Despite the success, all projects have limitations and challenges. And as you can see, one of the most important challenges we had was the remote location of the village and the lack of infrastructure. They do not have internet. So we had difficulty in communicating with the project team in the village. And because of the distance, transport cost overruns through our budget SQ. The culture of male dominance and female subservience It's another issue that all Asian communities face, and this leads to women being afraid to speak up. All of this leads in turn to loss of income. And then, of course, in Sarawak, we have logging and deforestation, which in turn led to loss of livelihoods and migration of youth to the cities. The Penan people are heavily dependent on the forests around them, which serves as their source of livelihood. They pick wild berries and plants from the forest. They hunt for foxes and wild boar, deer as part of their food. The river was polluted, and so they couldn't get fresh fish. All this affected their livelihoods. And the biggest culprit of all was, of course, climate change. We had recurrent floods and landslides, which led to crop destruction and again, loss of water and food security and loss of income. Next slide, please. Now, we decided to tackle one of the major challenges, which was recurrent floods. So in 2021-22, torrential rains wiped out almost the whole farm. And you can see that the crops were destroyed. The greenhouse, the storage shed, you can see the sheds here are tilting in the heavy mudslides that were a result of the heavy rainfall and flooding. And once again, the women in the village were the ones adversely affected, as they are the ones who plant and harvest the crops. Next slide, please. In order to tackle this problem, CIROM, in collaboration with the Malaysian Water Partnership, organized a training workshop on flood risk reduction, preparedness, and mitigation in October 2022, before the start of the next rainy season. The workshop was held in Bintulu in Sarawak, where there is access to the internet and audiovisual aids. A group of 12 women and 3 men from the village were transported to Bintulu for training, as Long Tanyit has no internet. Engineers from the DID were invited as trainers, and they provided advice on precautions to be taken before, during, and after floods.
Dr. Sarada, can you wind up? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm getting to my last slide. CIROM also did some training to set up a small business. Heineken and Spark Foundation provided the funds to rebuild the farm on higher ground. Next slide, please. So these are the outcomes and the lessons learned. As you can see, training and capacity development have helped to educate and empower rural women to become more resilient in the face of disasters such as flooding. Women have become more confident and self-reliant and have a strong voice in the community in matters that affect their lives and livelihoods. We need to ensure food and water security in remote villages, as they are often cut off from mainstream development. And this was particularly the case during COVID-19. And in March this year, we actually had to enlist the help of Madam Edna from the DID Sarawak to send provisions by helicopter to the village. Finally, the most important point I want to make is that multi-stakeholder collaboration is crucial in ensuring successful outcomes. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Sarada. Although I was part of this team looking at this design, I continue to find the project very rewarding and interesting. Our next speaker will be engineer Edna Matthew, and she has a degree in civil engineering as well as a diploma from Western Australia and a master's degree in geoinformation and remote sensing from the University of Twente. She's also a licensed project management professional in the Project Management Institute. She served as a civil engineer with the Sarawak government. And as you have noted, this is where we had the case study just now, and she was behind the scene helping us. And also she would have some first, what do you call that? Immediate experiences in looking at what are needed by women, youth, and those in more challenge areas. Engineer Edna, welcome you.
Thank you, Dr. Salma, for your kind introductions. Managing water resources. The next slide, please. Managing water resources is fundamental to all development and is a vital component of civil
I think
engineering.
this is the last slide. Can we have
Yeah,
the...
it is.
Okay.
It is my slide. No, the slide before.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. And it's a, it's a vital component of civil engineering, significantly improving our quality of life. Dams, in this case, the Bakun dams, like this image portrays, plays a pivotal role in controlling the flow of water, especially during the periods of heavy rainfall and floods. Imagine the challenges we will face without these engineering marvels. They have effectively managed vast volume of water, reducing the risk of flooding and controlling the sediment load. Moreover, they provide a stable water supply for irrigation, industries, and our homes. Water engineering is a multidisciplinary. Historically, civil engineers had prominent roles in water resources development, but other engineering disciplines have progressively contributed more and more to dealing with water issues. And kudos to all engineers for enhancing our lives through such critical infrastructure. A little perspective can go a long way. Next slide, please. Just because I am a professional engineer and a project management professional does not mean that I know everything in my engineering discipline, and it comes with heavy responsibility, one that demands high compliance to ethics and integrity. I must say, honed by many years of experience in managing and developing water-related systems, in addressing water-related challenges, such as water for irrigation, flood control, and water resources sustainability, it is very easy to get lost in the process and work the way to survive. Many literatures or academic or NGO findings outside there pointing to women's potential as a key player in water management and key contributor to local economies. Despite the multiple roles that women play in providing, managing, and safeguarding water resources, their contributions and knowledge are often overlooked, and they remain underrepresented or excluded from decision-making on how water resources are shared, developed, and managed. Creating an enabling environment for women's participations and leadership in water management, such as this event we have this afternoon, continues to make we women visible. We have celebrated the fact that women have the right to make this decision, and rightly so. So how do we move forward? We must ask ourselves if we have become so focused in supporting personal choices that we are failing to encourage other women to aspire to leadership. It is time to cheer on girls and women who wants to sit at the table, seek challenges, and lean into the career. Women in leadership positions typically struggle with stereotypes and gender expectations. They face internal barriers which prevent them from excelling in their leadership positions. As we go up the rank, our growth is dependent on how well we break down complex problems into smaller solvable parts to the leadership's level. So we always need to find the fine line of balance between technical and the soft skills to get the messages across. That can be hard to wrap our heads around. Our natural assumption is that big transformational changes require massively different way of operating. And while it's true that some of us experience light bulbs moment, most such moments flow from the accumulations of prior effort to understanding something or to achieve a goal. Women also struggle to balance work and family, to be taken seriously as an authority without being seen as an ice queen, and to manage colleagues' expectation of them as leaders. Until women have supportive employers and colleagues, as well as partners who share family responsibility. Women may be encouraged to take manageable roles and additional roles, but receive no additional resources and have little influence in decision-making processes. You may take on more responsibility for the experiences, but do realize that experiences does not pay the bills. Women may be appointed to a position, and yet she is not given the remuneration or power that comes with the new position. Perhaps the playing field has not been leveled to allow women to play meaningful roles. Frustrations that result discourage other women who might want to apply for managerial positions. Lack of role models. Many literature shows women as household managers of water, and yet very few of them get to be decision makers or professional managers. This is largely because there are not enough mentors for women to look up to or to guide them. The number of students currently studying in the engineering and science-related arena determines the workforce for tomorrow. I think that's the power of something like STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths, and we are able to value different perspectives and then build something that is additive and thus better. Equal representation and increased participation of women and girls is possible if more women are educated in the field that lead them to the relevant water sector, such as hydrology, water management, and engineering. Being a mother has helped me to become a better professional. I'm far more efficient and much more comfortable with uncertainty. I have become much more aware of my teams and clients' needs, feelings, and unstated thoughts. Motherhood has opened my mind and heart. Societal dynamics. As women, we need to break through the social constructions that view women and men differently. Organizational culture and the ability to be inclusive is important foundations to prevent barriers for women to advance. Women don't need special attentions. We need platform to be fair. Archaic mindsets, regardless of gender, sometimes even women with power will not promote women. We need to look out for one another, work together, and act more like a coalitions. As individuals, we are relatively low level of power. Working together, as obvious as it sounds, women have not always worked together in the past, in fact. There are many discouraging examples where women have actually done the opposite. We are new generations and we need new approach. Why women still tend to be promoted less than men, even when their performance is identical? Women and men enter into the workforce in about equal numbers, but equal representation and increased participation of women or girls drop in the middle and senior level. In other words, start considering those who have high potentials, not just top performers. Ego set aside, and perhaps parenting and focusing on self-esteem of children may yield more mature work environment. Being strong, skilled, and knowledgeable women is the biggest challenge for women to advance in their career. In my experience, these types of women look intimidating for their male counterpart. Unfortunately, we're still living in a world where gender power imbalance affect many, if not all, aspects of our lives. But to won't suggest to women to less present themselves, but encourage them to be themselves, present their values and strength. I am not looking to deal with tense conversation every now and then, but if engaging in healthy debates help me learn something new, I'm in all for it. To all women, never blame yourself if you are not at the point where you deserve to be. Eventually, the best will come to you. General Colin Powell ever said, if you and I always agree, one of us is irrelevant. There has to be room for divergence of opinion, and that drives positive outcomes. Where I'm concerned, there are two that stand out. One professional and the other personal. On the professional fronts, it is the limiting area of works when it comes to senior positions or executive positions. We have, however, that brings me to the biggest personal barriers, which is the women tend to have the majority of the mental responsibility when it comes to family responsibility. Therefore, in a day, many things can go through a woman's head, which take her focus away from her professional responsibility. Barriers to women advancement in their career, it is difficult to pinpoint in just one aspect. My observation and my personal experience are the perception of others. Being a motivated and structured person can be interpreted as aggressive rather than the forward-thinking visionary individual. There are awareness of opportunities or support from managers to further develop within our area or even to move on career opportunities outside of ours. What if we flip the script? And instead of wallowing in the doom and the gloom against the backdrop of the traditional role structure of women in water management, how we communicate, encourage risk-taking and confidence.
Can you round up your presentation?
Sure. Renewed approach. Navigate otherwise male-dominated fields to effect real change. Despite the progress women had in Malaysia, Sarawak in particular, in the last 20 years, we are still lag behind our male counterparts in terms of authority and opportunities. Lastly, I would like to thank Dr. Sarada and Dr. Salma for believing in a greenhorn like me and still persuading and giving me a chance to talk this evening. I must say, I'm not a seasoned veteran, but I'm not a greenhorn either. Thank you, Dr. Salma.
Thank you, Edna. You did very well. Congratulations, and thank you for bringing the problems we women face. I think you'll be up there soon. And the next speaker will be Mr. Mansogani, and he is special in the sense that he leads the communities in the one of the best known community-based program, which is the upper part of the Sungai Kelang in the Klang River Basin. But Mr. Mansogani is also an engineer and has a degree from Wales. You notice that most of us either go to England or to Australia. And then he has served in the PWD, Public Works Department, and the Water Department of Selangor. He's also very active in Malaysia Water Association, MMWA, and MyWP. And his interests include social engineering on river rehabilitation, river pollution control, sustainable water resource management, revolutionary wastewater treatment systems, and the El Nino La Nina effects on Malaysian climate. Welcome, Mr. Mansogani.
Thank you, Dr. Salma.
Presentation.
Yeah, I'll share my slides now. Okay, I've got 10 minutes to deliver this practical solution to our river rehabilitation program, which can be conducted by communities all around the country. Yeah, so this is our last 6 years of experience through a community engagement in trying to create awareness among the public and the government as well, in resolving our polluted rivers. These rivers are usually urbanized rivers, but even non-urbanized rivers are also polluted due to some form of earthwork like logging or estate cultivation. Yeah. So I'll skip that. So this the content of my presentation is why rivers are important and what about the river pollution that we are facing until today, since our independence or even before that. Then the future that we would like to have for our rivers, and a touch of on the legislation and status. We have laws governing river pollution, but as you can see that there be some challenges there. And Friends of Rivers Malaysia, which I'm representing today, but I have a few case studies at the Sungai Klang at Melawati, and then a conclusion that brief conclusion from this presentation. So rivers are important because they supply more than 95% of our water supply needs for Malaysia. But some people thought that our water supply source comes from the dams. They are not. Dams are just regulating, and they are discharged when we have serious droughts. Yeah. So most of the time we will be taking raw water and get it treated in our conventional treatment plants. In Malaysia, I would say all the treatment plants are of conventional types. Yeah. So meaning that they only can handle nominal pollution level, but not that contains certain chemicals and pollutants, especially microplastics and organic waste. Yeah, that can react with the chlorine that we introduce in our treatment plants for sanitizing the water, but at the same time, it does create byproducts that are carcinogenic and can be cancer causing. Yeah? So that even as it is, the urbanized rivers are polluted. We can still somehow treat them, but there are incidences of disruptive pollutions that really affect our daily lives. Yeah, whether for schools, for work, or for factories manufacturing. When there's a disruption in water supply, the whole economic and social economic activities gets affected. So this is a common scenario. These are solid waste that you can see floating on the rivers, but there are also debris that goes and settle down in the riverbed. Like for example, Sungai Klang, they have found that about 2 meters of debris are in the riverbed. So you can imagine that how much solid waste pollution, and as well as liquid pollution, which I will be mentioning a bit later. So this is also a common scenario where we find that rubbish are illegally dumped anywhere, in any quiet area, maybe very close to the urban areas, maybe by and this rubbish actually, when they have a heavy downfall, would also get into our rivers. This is still common view of our Malaysian rivers at the moment. Yeah, whether it's urbanized or ruralized. Only that in rural areas you can get a lot of mud or erosion from earthworks due to logging or plantation. But in the cities, then you get a lot of solid waste rubbish, yeah, something like this. But overseas, we find that there are many, for example, advanced countries, they have very, very nice rivers, well taken care of. But they have also undergone such a high pollution rate in the past. So they have done their control measures, and we can find that their rivers are now really nice, and you can really play in the river, you can swim probably, but not for Sungai Klang, for example. So it's an example of an urbanized river in Selangor. This is Sungai Buloh. The whole stretch is all urbanized or ruralized, where we have a lot of plantation and so on. And you can see that there's no more natural section of any part of the river. When we do some analysis on the outfalls, means like discharge into the river, we find that a very high percentage, 80% of these outfalls are badly polluted. So the rivers, that Sungai Buloh River will get that effect, and the grade of the water, the river water is class 4 or class 5. And one of the major cause of pollution, maybe up to 70% of liquid pollution comes from silage or grey water, which comes from either from household or from restaurants or even from food courts that's operated by the local authority. This is a very common sight. And for the housing area, you can find that when there are extensions of kitchen at the rear side, you can see this kind of discharge pipes going right straight into the drains behind the house. Whereas we have our sewerage system actually connected. These houses are all connected, but somehow we find this is rampant when extensions are to houses are done at the kitchen side. So probably the women can play some role here, and it is about not aware of what contractors do to your house when they extend your kitchen side. So people don't really realize that this contractor will just join some pipes, the discharge pipe from your kitchen sink or even from your washing machine, and they discharge to open drain. This is actually not proper and actually is illegal by law, only that the enforcement is not at the moment enforced. A graphics representation of illegal connections that's discharged into the open drain. We have done some CSR to survey on the sites in our local Malawati township, where there are 52 eateries, restaurants, and 100% discharge their wastewater. I mean, not the toilet water, but more for the silage or the grey water that discharge into the drains, and then finally ends up into Sungai Kelang here, the blue line here. So this is on the upper side of Sungai Kelang. So 100%. So you can imagine if you take this as a sample for the whole country, you can assume that it's nearly 100% of discharges from restaurants go into our rivers. And that's why you find that especially urbanized rivers, the ammonia level in the river during drought season is very, very high. And in some cases, for example, Sungai Skudai in Johor Bahru, the water treatment plant even has to be closed down due to such high ammonia content. So this is the survey that we did on a risk assessment for each individual premise food eatery, restaurant. I just want to touch a bit on the regulatory on the operating agencies. I won't be reading all of them. The operating agencies, and then the subject matter in terms of pollutant, all different kind of pollutants, and then all the laws and all the agencies that are involved in upholding the law. You can see that there are also some overlaps, in terms of laws. And so that's one thing that on the government side, something has to be done. And the part on the enforcement is another issue actually. Those are the challenges. This is our mind map that we have developed since 6 years ago. So we are concerned looking into crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. We wouldn't want to depend so much on the government funding. So our NGO are running on their own, and we will just continue to go along this framework. So on the river economy, you know, as of now, it is a affluent river, and trying to solve or dilute pollution. We want the rivers to be having a much higher economic effect to places around it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Our program, instead of, you know, it's very common to hear rhetorics and blame game, yeah, among the public.
Manso, can you round up? You have about a minute.
So we are pushing for full public participation. So there are three main components. We develop river amenities and the community that covers everybody, and the economic elements. And these are the activities we do: plugging, weeding, grass cutting, trail maintenance. We emphasize on the trail so that people have access to the rivers. I'll skip that. And we use the media to promote our program and reach out to the public, and such as today's our webinar. And this is when we started about 5 years ago, 6 years ago in Sungai Langat, and we have expanded to other places like Sungai Klang. So these are the communities that were involved, children, adults, even senior citizens. Yeah. So we have started cleaning up all these existing trails built by the government, some of them, under certain projects, and the community is now taking charge to maintain them. We are doing this every week, every Saturday, and we have got the ministers to attend and do our yearly celebration or function, yeah, along the river, where this is our Chief Minister of Selangor officiating a program for river rehabilitation. This at the University Islam Antarabangsa, the International Islamic University in Gombak. We have formed a group there. This is right in the middle of KL, Mid Valley. Another one, a nice spot here, still Eco Templar in Temple Park, Selayang, and further up north in Serendah, Desa Anggerik. The community is doing making the site into a nice place for people to even bathe in the river. Yeah, this river is very clean, but only the surroundings been made nicer now. A new one. This is a CSR by a consulting company. We have helped them to kick off at Sungai Damansara, JPS Eco Park, and establishment of a committee on river rehabilitation by the state government of Selangor. And this is our collaboration arrangement between so many parties actually that we have in Malaysia, all enveloped under our Friends of Rivers program, and all the states units. Few states are having quite a number, but the rest needs to be further enhanced, increase their numbers. These are all the lists that we have of all the Friends of Rivers units throughout the country, and this is what we'd like to see. Finally, a very nice ambience along rivers, and as we see in Japan, they have done very well, even for their drains. They got even fish living there. So very quickly, what we do is a simple way: is just to have a group and people coming to certain sites that has been selected. They can start this program that I've mentioned earlier. So that's all about my presentation today. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mansogani. I think all the three papers to me is very interesting, and it's something that we can move forward. Probably we want to ask questions later on to Mr. Ghani. What is the targets insofar as trails and the rest that are being planned for Malaysia? with that, I would like to pass the forum over to Mr. Fani Vedahuditama, our regional coordinator for GWP Southeast Asia, to take the questions and requesting the presenters to provide the answers. Over to you, Fani.
Thank you, Dr. Sama. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Sama, and also thank you for the presentation for all these three speakers, Dr. Sarada, Ms. Edna, and also Mr. Mansur. I think these are very inspiring presentation. And I see there are several questions already in the chat, but before we go to the chat, there is just one question. After hearing all your presentation, I think it reminds it reminds me about two books, because we are talking about the voice of Unheard and we are trying to bring them out. I remember about two books. One is authored by Robert Chambers. It's called Putting the Last First. And then the second one is by Naila Kabir, Reverse Reality, because we are talking also about a group of vulnerable people who are often missed out when we plan or when we do all this development process. So I think it's a good thing that we have that. I'm just sharing. I don't know if you can see this. This is Naila Kabir. It's called Reverse Reality. I don't know if you can see that, but okay. For the first question for all the speakers, I've heard about all the presentation, and we would like to know from each of you, what is the main challenges, or what is the main challenge in ensuring that no one is left behind, as we are talking about the voice of Unheard in your project, and what have been done through the project to address that main challenge? If anyone would like to answer, please. Maybe Dr. Sarada first, or Mr. Mansur, or Miss Edna, please.
Yes, I could attempt to answer some of that. I come from Optimus International, which is an NGO that is constantly trying to educate, enable, and empower women and girls to achieve their best potential. And I think from the case study I presented, and also listening to Edna, it is very clear that education empowers them. So women need to be included in all education and training programs so that they are empowered to speak up. Then they will have a voice. But the next step is to get them onto boards or committees where they can really represent that voice or use their voice to speak up about problems at community level, at state level, at middle management, upper management. And maybe Edna can elaborate a little bit on role models. She mentioned that, and I think that's very useful. Edna?
Yeah, on that role models you're talking about, Dr. Sarada?
Yes, role models for women, because you said
Yeah.
some women put other women down. They don't even help their own women.
Yeah, that's what I see it as per my own experience. Yeah, women need to have a role model to be to be strong, to be knowledgeable, so that they see some like a mother and a child. How the mother behave or how the mother presenting, that's how the child will follow how the mother presenting herself. Like that also we are at a workplace. I think we women need to mentoring. We need to have a proper mentoring from same women, and also, yeah, role model. That is what actually lacking in our women's in my area in particular in engineering. Yes, we do have women engineers, but I do have a role model in myself, and then the role model is also here in my workplace. So I think having her as my, the determinations that she has, the voice that she throw out in a meeting, the way she bring herself, I think that is one way or another make we women feel confident in bringing ourselves up. So role model is something that we need to develop from here on for the children, for the our younger staff, younger co-workers, colleagues, etc. So a woman like me have to be a mentee, have to be a mentor or something like that for to be able to move forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, maybe
Yeah, please, Mr. Mansur. Yeah.
This the challenges, yeah, for sustainability on, say, in our case, my program. Yeah, we have a lot of challenges, those who started with us 6 years ago, they are no more around. But they have been replaced by new people, different people, and whether it's from the public or from the government side, because they also get transferred. Yeah, but we are trying to reach out to as much as possible into our network with our CSR program, and we need to approach them, the companies. And now we have ESG, which is something that is required, yeah, of public listed companies. So there are a lot of opportunities as well, but the challenges is trying to connect them together, get to link to our program, and get them to participate. Not every week that we are doing, but maybe in a year they have like 3 or 4 programs of a company. And imagine that there are thousands of companies we have here. So that is one area that we can explore for, say, in funding of our program. But we do not really want to stress so much on money matters, but it is more like participation. We just do as much as we can, and what we want to get is the awareness. If we can get most of a population aware that the rivers are important, then you will find that pollution will just stop at source. So meaning the cleanups and all that, really you don't really have to go into that so much, right? Otherwise it'll be a continuous effort to clean rivers, but instead we want to go into stopping at the source. So that's the challenge, and there's ways to do that, yeah, which we have been practicing all this while.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mansur, and also for all the answer. But I would like to highlight also these two points. For Miss Edna, you said about this mentoring, that this mentoring can be a way also to bring the voice of this unheard. But you say also this mentoring is also difficult. What would be the main challenge for the mentoring? This is just a follow-up question. And then for Mr. Mansur, on bringing everybody together, and also to make sure that everyone is not left behind. So all the vulnerable groups also involved in that process. What would be the best way to do that? You are still on mute, sir.
Edna first, I suppose.
Oh, okay. All right. Why mentoring is both flip of the, what is the questions again? Can be.
Sorry. So yeah. So mentoring is one of the solution to
Yes.
bring about the voice of the unheard. But you also said that this is also challenging. So what would be, what is the main challenges if you are going to go for this mentoring as a solution?
To be able to become a mentor ourselves, first we must equip our own self to be a knowledgeable women, knowledgeable women in the subject that we are into the subject that we want to mentor. Let's say in my capacity here as a water engineers, I would have my junior water engineers under me, working for me. So what knowledge would I want to, what do we call that, transfer down to them? What are the skills? What are the, one of them is the skill, technical skills. Yes, we all learn in the university, etc. But to complement these technical skills and the soft skill that are not taught in school, that are not taught in the university, how to negotiate in the male dominant what do we call that environment, that is hard to what do we call that, inculcate, hard to transfer. analytical skill, for example, is a skill, one thing is a hard skill and a soft skill. So how we want to mentor analytical skill. I'm a very, what do we call it, meticulous person. So if I were to get my junior to be meticulous, I have to be very, how to transfer that skill. So that is how I explain difficult, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Etna. So yeah, Mr. Mansur, and then after this we will go to the chat. There are some questions. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Yeah, just to continue on that, the work is a lot, but you can only take certain steps, right? Because we are all volunteers here. We are not being paid to do all this work. We have our own work to do. But by keeping a consistent weekly program, at least once a week, that would help to we avoid we need to be continuous. So we've got to be consistent. That's one thing that attracts, and there are a lot of people start to come to us, and even for example, companies CSR, which we're having from time to time. Yeah, almost every month we have CSR program by companies, and that is starting to grow now. And now we are involving with schools. Although it's already 6 years, and like 2 schools that just involved with us in this area of Taman Malawati in Kuala Lumpur. But there is something actually, and we continue to engage with them. Then we have the government agencies where they also start to do what we call Gotong Royong. That's a community service, and we will join together and through some even parliamentarians or politicians, they will come over and join our program. So that is very encouraging at the moment, and we will just continue to do such program. We must not just say because there's not many people we give up. No, even there's only one person, you just continue and continue to do it, and you can see that the effect will be tremendous in the very long term. This is a whole life program that each individual who has that awareness to get come forward and get involved.
Thank you for the answer. So this is related. There is a question also related to what we are discussing right now on the reservation for women, both in the parliament, both in the on the specific certain positions. So we call this, in my understanding, we call this affirmative action also. So do you think this is also a way also to be able to bring out the voice of the unheard? This question is from Mr. Dafal from India. Thank you for the question, Mr. Dafal. What do you think, Dr. Sarada, Ms. Etna, and Mr. Mansur?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Dawal Pandya. I think reservations are a good idea in terms of affirmative action. You make sure that, say, 20% or 30% of the population or parliamentarians or committees have women. But it doesn't always answer the solution, because as Edna says, you have to have quality people. You can't just put them there because you want to fill a quota. You want to fill up 30%. If the woman is herself not qualified or well-trained, she will not serve a purpose on that committee. So the first thing, again, I think I come back to education, training. Very important. Role models can help to give the woman confidence to come up, because many women shy away from positions of leadership because they think it's too much work. I have family to take care of. They will transfer me to another state. I don't want to do all that. So they shy away from positions of leadership. How to motivate them to take on positions of leadership? It's a challenge. I come as a woman professional. I'm a medical doctor, but there are people who don't want to go up there and lead. They want to be followers. They will take instruction. So leading is not easy, and there are several reasons for it. So reservations, I don't think will really work. What we need is really people up there to pull the one below up and convince them that they have come up.
Thank you, Dr. Sarada. That's good. I also remember when I was working on the gender for the reconstruction for Aceh, I think I came across also this issue on the reservation. I mean, we can have like even more than 30%, but then if the way they think, the way it's like what is already people who are thinking also the same way like that, so you don't be able to bring up all this quality of thinking of bringing up the voice of the unheard. But this is of course one way, yeah, that's why it's called affirmative action. So Miss Etna or Mr. Mansur, would you like also to add on that, or we can go to the next question from the chat?
Next question, please.
Okay, so there is another question to Mr. Mansur. I think there are two questions here. The first question is that how to conduct crowdfunding for rural areas. Is there any suggestion?
Well, actually, in rural area is probably a lot easier because the expectation of F&B is not so high, you know. So, what we do, even we don't encourage ourselves to even provide food or drinks. So we will just ask the volunteers to bring their own drinks, you know, just drinks, you know, food, because we are doing about 2 hours in one session. 2 hours, I don't think you need to provide food. So in that case, we try to minimize on spending, right? So that we can be more independent rather than focusing on money things, you know, money matters. So by that, it makes a lot easier to conduct such program. So for rural areas, it's the same. But what we also encourage people, they can bring in some nasi lemak, potluck, cakes or whatever if they wish to. But we are not going to fix anything about food or drinks. So they need to bring their own if they need to. So because drinks is necessary, because sometimes it can be quite I would say very heavy, but it can be very sweaty. So we don't want to get dehydrated. But anyway, rural areas, they can gang up together, the village folks, right? And they can just kick off. We are going to help one place quite remote somewhere in Sungai Buloh to start their team. So what is important that we got to do it the first time, right? Meaning we should not pamper volunteers with a lot of food, stuff, drinks, and whatever, you know, tents. So we don't want it to be costly affair. So that's how we, if it is so low cost, right? You can have the program much easier. But crowdfunding is necessary in certain areas. Like, for example, you want to plant some trees along the rivers, right? And you want to lay some trail. That sometimes we need crowdfunding. Yes, it can be from the government. You know, you can build that relationship with the local authority, or you can just talk to CSR program companies around the area. You know, you can approach them. All that can be done. You know? So or even people we do at our side do spend our own money. You know, to ensure that the place is well kept, something like that. But we try to avoid very expensive or costly spending.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mansur. Also, this is also reminds me about the rolling fund. In Indonesia, we call it arisan. I don't know if it's the same way. Yeah. So arisan. So there is this seed funding. Then you create this rolling fund. And usually the women are they make a group, and then they use this rolling fund to do something together. I think this is also something that we need also to have a look at. And
who's
also
providing that rolling fund? Who's providing it?
It depends. Sometimes from the government, sometimes from the donors, the NGO, and so on for certain kind of project. Like the WASH microcredit, this is also something that we can do. Now, I see there is an interesting points that is brought out in the chat regarding the social construction that have sometimes become a barrier for the vulnerable group, especially women and children, also to be involved in the process. So I would like to ask you what do you think, all the speakers, about this point? Because I think if we want to bring everybody, not leaving everyone behind, then we need to also to really take this point seriously. And then I would like also to open the question after this to the audience, to the participants. If you want to open your mic, I think you can submit your share your question. We still have like around 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, for that question, the social construction that become a barrier, how should we address this? Anyone would like to answer this from the speakers, please? Dr. Sarada, you're still on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand that question because from what I can understand, Ichimanso himself is an engineer, but he transitioned from someone who was working and for the government in various departments to now become a social engineer. He has taken on the role of a champion for the community. He has championed cleaning up the rivers in a very magnificent way and managed to involve various friends of rivers in his activities. Now that is a brilliant role model because he did it himself. I find that in order to be a role model, you have to be the leader. You have to take the lead. If you wait for someone else to do it, it's not going to happen. And one of the problems that we encounter, I'm not directly answering your question, but I think Marit has also highlighted this issue, is funding. We as NGOs who want to work with communities, we often have minimal access to funds. So we have to approach either corporates. Governments don't usually give to NGOs. So we usually work with corporates or other like-minded individuals or partner with other NGOs in order to amplify our funding and our reach. NGOs play a good role in terms of connecting community to private and public sectors because we have the network of connections, but the voice is from the community. We need to listen to the community. So if we don't have that representation from them, I think it's going to be difficult to achieve what we actually see is our target. I'm sorry, I may not have answered your question.
No, it's okay, Dr. Sarad. I mean, this is also actually answering the question because sometimes to participate, there is a barrier, right? For example, if in a certain culture, women cannot be present without the permission from their husband. So this is also something that, and then we cannot also ask the children who are also actually as affected by the situation in the village that the project is trying to solve. So this kind of thing, I think we need also to have a look at and then try to see how we can come up with a solution that is embedded to the design of the project. But yeah, this is just something to be discussed on. But your example also already inform on how the best way to do this. Mr. Manso, you would like to add?
Yeah, I want to add. Actually, from my observation about being a volunteer for, in this case, river cleanup, we got the women, the university students, who are the female university students, the many of them who have come forward. But there is something that maybe we think that is a barrier. That, hey, why should we be doing this kind of work? This is the government's work. This is the local authorities' work. They should be doing that. So, that kind of blame game or passing the buck to others, So we don't really have that situation. Although it is in some of our friends' minds, or even they would, but very, very minimal these days after going through for the last 6 years for myself, yeah. So we don't really get that kind of stumbling block by the public. So so that's very good to me because we managed to cross that barrier. There was such a barrier before. Why should we be doing all this? But I think when we are so open up to the world and we're looking at the Japanese culture, right? it is in their DNA when they went for football matches in other countries. Yeah, they clean up the stadium. So I think because of that, I think people have really stopped saying such things like, why should we be doing all this work? This is the government's job, you know, the kind of. So that one we don't hear this anymore. Only that, yeah, when we start moving for the last 6 years, there are more people coming into this picture. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mansur. So I would like to ask if any of the participants would like to ask question. I see there are some comments already, some discussion also in the chat. Is there any question from the participants? You can open
Hi.
your mic.
Sorry. Hi.
Hi, yes, please. Please state your name, sir, and your organization.
I'm Zaim Ali. I'm part of the Rivers, the Friends of Rivers project.
Yes,
So
please.
I have a few questions to ask, and maybe I might even talk about some facts and information relevant to this subject.
Yeah, but please keep it concise, sir.
Of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
please, thank you.
also other industries like, you know, like the textile industry, right? Like I know in Bangladesh and Indonesia, there's these textile factories that are often responsible for polluting the rivers that they sit next to. Yeah, I did watch this documentary in Indonesia about this textile factory and how it took so long and how it's such a tiring process to hold the people responsible for these textile factories, and also the fact that fast fashion, which is perhaps responsible for many of these, was responsible for these textile factories producing so much clothes in one time, is it's also the demand, you know, the demand for certain things that lead to the pollution of these rivers. It's unfortunate. I mean, I'm not really a fashionable person, so I can't really relate to those fashionable people. Yeah, I mean, mostly you also consider other industries other than restaurants, and also I know that, you know, you're talking about Southeast Asia mostly, but I know that in, like, for talking about women this time, I mean, like, it's common, like, in Africa and in India and South America for like women to pick up jugs of water and then put it on their heads, and then they have to walk miles across, you know, very hot and dry places or very cold and dry places. They walk many miles and kilometers to go back to their villages to help. You use the water to not only drink but to also cook, and to also for sanitation and for cleaning, so prevent the spread of diseases, because it's not only for drink, and to wash dishes and
Yeah.
and and you would say that dams are generally good or bad for water?
Yeah. Mr. Zaim, could you go to the question?
Dams, you know,
Yeah.
the irrigation dams like the Bakun Dam you were talking about. But generally they're there to like, well, first of all, sometimes they're there to generate electricity, but sometimes this electricity sometimes goes to the wrong places or doesn't really go to certain villages, or sometimes it's used for flood control, but sometimes it ends up flooding like the rivers behind them, or then that contaminates the area, because that water of the river then comes to contact with other
Yeah.
materials.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, Mr. Zaim, could you go with the question, please?
okay.
Sorry, because we have limited time.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to questions, well, as of now, I'm in like a world mode. So women, so perhaps they don't really. So basically, if they let's say they don't have like, maybe if they're perhaps allowed to do things, or they may be allowed to like do a lot of things, but if they don't really have like a role model to follow or to empower them or to look up to, then even if we did give them the resources and the empowerment, they still wouldn't really want to pursue it.
Yeah.
Maybe there might be some subconscious stigma that might be holding them back.
Yeah.
And even if those restrictions will be lifted, or
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Zaim. So this is also related to the role model challenges that was presented and discussed before, especially by Miss Edna. So okay, thank you for your comments, sir. And because I'm sorry, because we are already 1 minute. Yeah, or just one question. Yes, Mr. or Dr. Asari, if you have one question, please, sir.
I didn't ask for any, I didn't request any question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Encik Fani, I think we are running over time.
We are already running out of time, yeah? Okay.
So we need to call upon Kusum to say a few words before we wrap up this very interesting discussion that has generated a lot of comments in the chat box, which we have not managed to address completely. But I think we have to wrap up, Fani.
Sorry,
Dr. Over time now.
Sorry, Dr. Sarara. Can I say 1 or 2 minutes of my thoughts on this after listening to all? Actually, to be looking at the whole picture, we NGOs especially, we are still working on silos. We're doing our part where we are not united, and we say it in different angle. So it's about time they work. The local NGOs will work together, integrated, doing what we want, same goal, and supported by international NGOs. Likewise, when we go to different countries, they are international goals. And then for the women part, it's about time that the government must be involved to support whatever they do. And the enforcement is another part. It's no point of looking at the downstream, but the upstream is still polluted. So we are still cleaning up rivers, but a lot of trails to be done. So it's a concerted effort by all. The government need to be involved and recognized. And for the women, maybe the NGOs can get together and recognize one special projects that the women hits, not necessarily the physical in the rivers and whatever. Maybe start from home, something that we can adopt, and then if we practice, if not local, nation or global wide, a practice that women play a very important role in looking at the source and also how we manage water in the house. That's one portion, but there are bigger roles that women can play and have a say on this, so that it be recognized and can be implemented. So let's get our team together, united, and all NGOs work together rather in silos, and supported by the international. And we will go to different countries. We do the same, because it's a reality. When the local NGOs approach their own government, it will be less impact. But if there's any support from the overseas, especially from United Nations, all those recognized worldwide organizations, then that will give a bit more pressures and give what they call a strength to implement whatever you aim for. But to be united, that's my point on that. So
yeah. Thank you, Dato' Abdul Qadir. So with that, I think we are exactly on time, 30 minutes for the discussion. So I would like to hand over this to Ms. Kusum. Mrs. Kusum, please.
Thank you very much, Fanny. I'm very happy that I'm sitting on this session, because I think it has been very inclusive. It's covered a lot of issues, and it has also given us forward thinking, some points, some action points, some thinking points. This is a very good gender balance team, and we understand you don't really have to be a woman to support gender, because you are talking about optimizing action for half of humanity. Secondly, this has brought forth our importance of the what I call the Cinderella SDG 17, the role of people coming together in partnerships. And these partnerships have come up in every one of the sessions that we, the presentations that we talked about. Then pollution control is a problem that everybody is trying to grapple with Southeast Asia, GWP, South Asia. But I want to at this point highlight that there are very good examples of communities coming together, CSOs supporting communities, especially to take control of pollution and disasters which are happening in their own agencies, in their own regions. And here I would really like us to think about something which happened in Lake Biwa in Japan, where the women, the housewives, decided to, upon a modality which led to Lake Biwa being cleaned up. So, it is really important when we get this kind of activities that we use them as stepping stones to guide our future action. Well, I'm also happy that we have had our keynote speaker highlight the silent struggles of women, and this was also supported by what Marit talked about. Why is the inclusion of women so difficult? Well, it's 1992. We are well beyond the Dublin Rio principles, but I can tell you that hardly a day, hardly a week goes without us talking again about the importance of getting women involved, in the importance of gender mainstreaming, the importance of gender inclusion, especially in representation. And that this even happens in organizations such as GWP, where we would have encountered problems in committing to the gender principle. So I think that, we still seem to be working on a policy, but with this policy, we need to move on to advocacy, as we have done in many stages. I'm looking with a lot of, how shall I say, the positives which are coming out of that Long Tani presentation of Dr. Sarada, where you have really made changes. But you are also looking at how much more are we going to struggle? We seem to be doing this every day, every week. Is there some way that we can maybe fast track our activities? Is there some way that we can do more partnership building alliances, so that we can come together in tackling the challenges? I believe that that partnership building, especially bringing the private sector in, is really important for South Asia and also for Southeast Asia. So if I can sort of round up by saying that we are talking about Bali, the Signposts to Bali, an activity which we wanted to bring to the Bali Forum, where the people who can't go to Bali will have a representation and a voice. I think that long after we have forgotten the WTO principles, maybe we should use this platform in a very positive way. Perhaps as we go on to our, now this is, I think, the 8th activity in the series, we have 30 activities lined up. Somebody might get up and say, what about a Bali Declaration for Women and Water in Asia? Because I think this is important, that women should not be only unheard, they should be heard, they should be articulated very strongly, they should have been supported by all partners, and this support that we are talking about has to be acted upon. We have to move from talk to action. So thank you very much, all of you. You have been a wonderful audience, but you have also been wonderful presenters. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your very active participation. I'm delighted to say that there has been a lot of interesting comments generated in the chat box, some of which we have not been able to address, and we've run out of time. But really, thank you for your participation. And another point that Dato mentioned, which I think we should be aware of is we should stop working in silos. We have to work in multidisciplinary committees so that we don't all do the same thing in different rooms. And then we can't magnify the effect. So thank you once again to all participants and to our esteemed panelists, as well as Dato Abdul Qadir for his very informative talk. I wish you a good evening, and I hope we can see you all again at the next webinar that will hopefully be organized early next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening for all of you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Dr. Nohayati for Tier 2.
Hello, yes, thank
She's
you, Dr.
organizing
Salman.
Tier 2.
Thank you. Yes, hopefully to organize Tier 2, very exciting webinar today. Thank you to all of the speakers. Thank you.
Gosh.